The bus smelled like urine and blood. Margot Clee pressed her forehead against the window, watching Louisiana blur past in impossible green. 24 years old, and her gums bled when she swallowed. 3 years of turnip water did that. 3 years of sawdust bread that shredded your mouth on the way down. Behind her, someone was praying. Someone else was crying. Same sounds, different day. The American MP driving didn't look back. Didn't need to. 200 German Red Cross nurses who'd surrendered in North Africa, stuffed into 6 buses, going wherever Americans sent people they'd beaten. Margot had stopped asking where weeks ago. Her reflection in the window looked like a skeleton wearing her face. The bus lurched to a stop. Frida Bauer grabbed Margot's arm, fingernails digging through the threadbare sleeve. Is this it? Through the window, Margot saw picnic tables. Actual wooden picnic tables with red checkered cloths. String lights hung between posts like something from before. Before the war, before the hunger, before everything turned to ash and screaming. A swing band was playing Glenn Miller. They've gone mad, Frida whispered. The Americans have gone mad. The MP opened the door. July heat rolled in, thick and wet, carrying a smell that made Margot's stomach clench. Smoke meat. Something sweet and sharp underneath it all. Ouch, out you go, ladies, the MP said. Not cruel, just tired. Camp commanders got a welcoming speech. They stumbled off the buses in formation. Old habits die hard, and Margot's legs nearly buckled. She hadn't stood this long in weeks. Around them, American waxes were setting up volleyball nets. Volleyball nets like this was a church picnic instead of a prisoner camp. One whack was laughing at something another said, her head thrown back completely unguarded. Margot stared. When was the last time she'd heard laughter that wasn't broken? The camp commander climbed onto a platform near the picnic tables. Middle-aged, thick around the middle, the kind of man who'd never missed a meal in his life. He raised a bullhorn. Welcome to Camp Rustin, ladies. His voice boomed across the compound. And welcome to Texas barbecue night. Someone behind Margot made a strangled sound. We got ribs, brisket, kleslaw, cornbread, and all the sweet tea you can drink. The smell hit harder now. Margot's mouth flooded with saliva so fast she choked, had to bend over coughing while her body remembered what hunger actually meant. Not the dull ache she had learned to live with. Real hunger, the kind that made you want to tear into something with your teeth. An American soldier walked past carrying a tray stacked 3 feet high. Meat glistened under the string lights, charred black at the edges, fat rendering and dripping. Smoke billowed up from somewhere behind the tables. Margot hadn't seen this much meat since 1940. They're fattening us up, Frida said. Her voice was too loud, too high, like Christmas geese. Before she stopped. Didn't need to finish. They all knew what came before. The field execution, the mass grave. The quick bullet if you were lucky. The slow one if you weren't. This was the last meal. Had to be. Nothing else made sense. Americans didn't just feed prisoners. Not like this. Not with smoke and music and string lights making everything look like a dream you'd forgotten you could have. Form a line, one of the whacks called out. She was smiling, actually smiling. Come on, don't be shy. There's plenty. 200 nurses moved forward in silence, waiting for the other shoe to drop. The firing squad announcement, the list of names, something to make this make sense. Instead, a black cook stood behind the serving table, grinning like he was serving Sunday dinner to family. Sergeant's stripes on his sleeve, laugh lines around his eyes. He started loading plates, actual china plates, not tin, with portions that would have fed a family for a week back home. Y'all never had Texas barbecue? He shook his head, still grinning, loading a plate with 3 massive ribs, a mountain of brisket, cornbread dripping butter. Oh, honey, you about to meet Jesus. He handed the first plate to Cather Reinhardt, who took it with shaking hands like it might explode. Margot reached the front of the line. Up close, the smell was overwhelming. Smoke and char and something sweet she couldn't name. Her vision tunneled. The cook, Winters, his name tag read, piled her plate high. There you go, ma'am. You want extra sauce? Ma'am, he called her. Mum. Margot carried her plate to a table, sat down on a real bench, stared at the meat glistening under the lights. Around her, 200 women sat in stunned silence, all holding plates loaded with more food than they'd seen in years. Someone had to go first. Margot picked up a rib. Still warm, fat dripped onto her fingers. She raised it to her mouth, closed her eyes, bit down. The meat fell off the bone. Fat flooded her mouth, rich and overwhelming. Smoke, sweetness from the sauce, salt, pepper, something else, spice she had no name for. Her taste buds, dead for so long, exploded back to life. She made a sound she didn't know she could make. Something between a moan and a sob. Then she couldn't stop. The tears came hot and fast, dripping onto her plate, mixing with the sauce. Her shoulders shook. She couldn't breathe right, couldn't see right, just kept crying into her food while her body remembered what pleasure felt like. All around her, the sounds started. 200 German nurses simultaneously discovering that food could be more than survival, that it could be joy. Frida was laughing and crying at the same time, sauce on her chin, holding a rib bone like it was sacred. Hilda had her face in her hands, shoulders heaving. Even Kata, hardcore, unbreakable Ka, had tears streaming down her face while she ate. Someone was praying in German. Someone else was singing. The swing band kept playing Glenn Miller and the American soldiers kept serving and the string lights kept swaying in the Louisiana breeze. Margot looked up, vision blurred, and saw an American with a camera. He raised it. The flash popped. She didn't care. Let them take her picture. Let them see what they'd done. Reduced a German nurse to weeping over a bone like an animal, like someone who'd forgotten humans could be kind, could give without taking, could feed without demanding. She picked up the second rib with shaking hands. Across the compound, Sergeant Winters watched them cry and eat and cry some more. One of the WWIIs came up beside him. "Think they understand yet?" she asked quietly. "Understand what?" "That we're not going to shoot them." Winters looked at 200 enemy prisoners sobbing over barbecue, their faces shining with grease and tears and something that looked almost like hope. "Not yet," he said, "but they will." The music played on. The meat kept coming, and somewhere in the back of her broken mind, Margot felt the first crack appear in everything she thought she knew about enemies and allies and what happened when the monsters turned out to be the ones offering you ribs with extra sauce. The library cart squeaked. Margot looked up from her bunk as 2 American Red Cross volunteers wheeled it through the barracks door. Actual books, magazines with glossy covers, sheet music tied with string. The cart looked like something from before, from a world where paper wasn't rationed and reading was leisure instead of luxury. Hilda Obermann reached the cart first. She picked up a Saturday Evening Post, fingers trembling slightly, and stared at the cover. A Coca-Cola advertisement. A family at a beach. Everyone tan and smiling, holding curved glass bottles that caught the light like jewels. The colors were so saturated they looked hand-painted. Impossible blues, reds that hurt to look at. "Is this propaganda?" Hilda asked. The volunteer, Donna Hartley, her name tag said. Maybe 19, freckles across her nose, looked confused. "What? No, that's just a Coke ad." "But the colors," Hilda's voice dropped to a whisper. "And they're all so happy about a beverage." Donna reached into her bag and pulled out an ice-cold Coca-Cola, condensation already beating on the glass. She cracked it open with a church key, the carbonation releasing with a crisp hiss. "Try it." Hilda took the bottle like it might explode. She raised it to her lips. The first sip hit her tongue. Cold. So cold her teeth ached. Sweetness flooded her mouth. Bubbles fizzed against her palate, sharp and alive and completely foreign. She hadn't had ice in 3 years. Hadn't tasted sugar that wasn't beet-derived and rationed. She looked at Donna with something close to betrayal. "You've had this the whole time during the war?" "Well, yeah," Donna shrugged. "It's just Coke." The words hung in the air. Just Coke. Like it was nothing. Like everyone had access to sugar and ice and bottles so clean they sparkled. Hilda set the bottle down carefully, hands shaking. She walked back to her bunk without taking another magazine. That night, Margot found her writing in a contraband diary she'd hidden inside her pillowcase. The words covered half a page already, cramped and furious. "They were drinking sugar and bubbles while we were eating leather." They went to cinema while we dug mass graves. I don't know who the villains are anymore. Week 2, the Americans organized a softball game. Margot stood at home plate, wooden bat heavy in her hands, while 200 women watched from bleachers the guards had assembled that morning. PS versus guards, they'd said, friendly competition. The German nurses had never seen baseball. Margot suspected it was another humiliation ritual. Make the prisoners swing at balls while Americans laughed. The pitcher was a wake corporal named Betty Kowalski. Built like a farmhand, blonde hair pulled back tight. She wound up and threw an easy lob, the ball floating toward Margot like a balloon. Margot swung, missed completely. The bat whistled through empty air. The American soldiers erupted in cheers anyway. Good cut. Try again. Margot's brain stuttered. They were encouraging her. Second pitch. She connected this time. The impact vibrated up her arms as the ball sailed into shallow outfield. Before she could process what happened, Betty was screaming, "Run! Run to first!" Margot ran. Dust kicked up behind her boots. She saw the white canvas bag ahead. Saw the first baseman waiting and did what she'd seen in American newsreels. She slid. Dirt filled her mouth. Her hip hit the bag hard. "Safe!" the umpire yelled. Betty sprinted over, grabbed Margot's arm, hauled her upright. She slapped Margot's shoulder, grinning like they'd won the war. "Hell yeah, look at you." She held up her palm. Margot stared at it, uncomprehending. "High five," Betty said. "Come on." Margot raised her hand. Their palms cracked together. An enemy soldier, touching her with affection, celebrating her small victory like it mattered. Margot started laughing. Not the hysterical breakdown from the first night, but genuine shocked laughter that came from somewhere deep in her chest she'd thought was dead. She stood there covered in Louisiana dirt, breathing hard while Betty dusted off her shoulders like they were teammates, like they were friends. That night, the nurses huddled in their bunks after lights out. Frida's voice cut through the darkness, barely a whisper. "They're nice to us. Why are they nice to us?" Silence. Then Kata Reinhardt spoke from the corner bunk, her voice sharp. "It's a trick. They want us soft before interrogation." But Margot heard the waver in her tone because Kata had also eaten the ribs. Kata also had a toothbrush now, her first in 2 years. Kita had also noticed the American guard said please and thank you even to prisoners. Kita, who refused to salute the American flag, who still called Roosevelt a warmonger, who kept a small photo of the Führer hidden in her pillowcase. Even Kata's certainty was cracking. Week 4, movie night. The projector roared to life in the Missal, throwing light across 200 upturned faces. Stormy weather. The title card read, starring Lena Horne. Margot had been taught in the Bund Deutsche Metal that American Negro music was degenerate, primitive, evidence of cultural decay. She expected to feel disgusted, or at least uncomfortable. Instead, Lena Horne appeared on screen in a white dress and opened her mouth to sing. The longing in her voice hit Margot like a physical blow. The ache of it, the beauty. Every note carried weight, heartbreak, and resilience, and something Margot couldn't name but felt in her sternum. She watched dancers move with fluid grace, watched Nicholas Brothers leap and spin, watched an entire world of art and joy and sophistication that she'd been told didn't exist, couldn't exist from people she'd been taught were inferior. The lie of it broke something in her chest. After the movie, Sergeant Winter set up his record player in the corner. Duke Ellington poured out of the speakers, horns and piano weaving together. Some American soldiers grabbed wax and started dancing, swinging each other in wide arcs across the cleared floor space. Margot stood frozen against the wall, watching. The music made her want to cry, and she didn't know why. Donna appeared at her elbow. "Want to learn to swing dance? I'm a prisoner. So you got 2 feet, don't you?" Donna took her hands before Margot could protest. Showed her the basic step. Rock back, rock forward, triple step. Margot stumbled, stepped on Donna's toes twice, but Donna just laughed and kept counting. After 10 minutes, Margot was actually dancing, actually laughing. Her body remembered joy. An American private appeared, maybe 20 years old, fresh-faced and polite. "May I?" He didn't grab, didn't assume, just asked permission, hand extended. Margot took it. They danced for 30 seconds before it hit her. This boy is 18. I treated boys like him in field hospitals outside Tobruk. I held their hands while they died. I wrote letters to their mother saying they were brave. And now he's asking permission to dance with me like I'm a lady at a social, not a prisoner, not the enemy. The room tilted. Margot excused herself with a mumbled apology and walked outside. Behind the barracks, hidden from view, she bent over and vomited into the dirt. Her whole body shook, ribs and Coca-Cola and kindness coming back up. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and stared at the Louisiana sky. Stars everywhere, thick as spilled salt. The same stars that hung over Berlin, over the field hospitals, over mass graves she tried not to see. Inside, Duke Ellington played on. Someone laughed. The music didn't care that she was broken. The music just kept swinging. The lights went out. Margot sat in the mesh hall alongside 200 other nurses, all forced into metal folding chairs. The American projector whirred to life behind them, casting a shaky beam across the makeshift screen. No popcorn tonight, no Coca-Cola, just the smell of sweat and rising dread. This is educational material, the camp commander announced. His voice had lost its usual warmth. You will watch. You will not leave. The first image flickered onto the screen. Bergen-Belsen. Bodies piled like cordwood, naked, skeletal mountains of them. Frida made a sound, something between a gasp and a retch. Someone behind Margot started praying in broken whispers. The camera panned across living skeletons with prisoner stripes hanging off their bones. Eyes too large for their faces. A child's corpse discarded in mud. Margot's hands gripped the chair until her knuckles went white. Then came Do the Ovens. The scratches on the gas chamber walls where fingernails had clawed for air. Hilda vomited into her lap. The sound triggered 3 others. The retching spread like contagion through the rows of chairs. Bunevald, an American soldier walking past bodies stacked outside barracks, his face twisted in disgust. The narrator's voice, clinical and cold. Approximately 60,000 deaths occurred at this facility alone. Margot couldn't breathe. She'd known something. Everyone had known something. The rumors about the camps, the transports that went east and never returned. The smell from that place outside Munich she'd driven past once. But this was real. The projector clicked off. Overhead lights blazed back to life, harsh and unforgiving. Half the nurses were crying. A quarter had vomited. Kata sat rigid, staring straight ahead, her face drained of blood. The Americans didn't speak, didn't lecture. They just opened the doors and left. In the hallway, someone had set up coffee urns and donuts. The juxtaposition made Margot want to scream. She found Donna outside 20 minutes later, sitting on the back steps, smoking a Lucky Strike. Margot sat down without asking permission. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Did you know? Her voice came out horsero. When you volunteered here. Donna took a long drag, exhaled slowly. Yeah. Is that why you came? That's why I came. Donna flicked ash into the dirt. My brother died at Normandy. Jimmy, he was 21. And I was so angry, Margot. I wanted to come here and hate every single one of you. Wanted to make you suffer like you made us suffer. Margot waited. The night air felt too thick to breathe. But then you cried over barbecue ribs. Donna laughed. Bitter. Broken. And Hilda asked if Coca-Cola was propaganda. And Frida learned to play baseball and slid into home plate laughing like a kid. And I remembered. She stubbed out the cigarette. You're just people. A people from a up place. But people. I don't know how to live with this. Margot's voice cracked. We did that. My country. Maybe me. I treated soldiers in field hospitals. I never asked where the Jewish patients went. I never asked. Yeah. The word landed like a stone. I should have asked. I should have. Margot. Donna turned to face her. You can't undo it. None of us can. But we're going to have to figure out how to live with it anyway. Together, I guess. They sat in silence. An American girl from Ohio and a German nurse from Bremen. Both 24. Both carrying weight that would never lift. Inside, someone was playing piano. Moonlight Serenade, The same song that had been playing at the barbecue their first night. I used to love that song, Margot whispered. You can still love it. Doesn't make you a monster, doesn't it? Donna didn't answer because neither of them knew. A week later, Margot sat in the barracks after lights out trying to write a letter to her mother. Moody, they showed us films. I can't describe them. I won't describe them, but I need you to know. She crumpled the paper, started again. Moody, the food here is abundant. Yesterday they served roast chicken with potatoes and gravy. For lunch, just a regular lunch. Crumpled it again. Nyeh. I don't know who we are anymore. That one she stared at for 5 full minutes before tearing it into pieces so small they looked like snow. The final version, the one she actually sent, read, I am well. The Americans are correct in their treatment. I miss you and think of home often. Sterile, safe. A lie. She tucked the approved letter into the outgoing mail slot and returned to her bunk. Kata was waiting. You're weak, she said quietly. Not angry anymore, just factual. Maybe they've broken you with hamburgers, with jazz music and baseball games. Margot met her eyes. No, they broke me by being decent. That's what I can't survive, Kata. Not the food, the decency. It's a trick. Then why do they keep doing it? Why give Hilda eyeglasses? Why teach us to dance? Why play us music and let us win at softball? Margot's voice rose. When did anyone in the Reich ask if we were comfortable? You sound like a traitor. I sound like someone who finally woke up to what? American propaganda. To the fact that civilization doesn't look like what we were told. Margot stood. It looks like Sergeant Winters teaching me to jitterbug. It looks like Donna sharing her Coca-Cola even though her brother died fighting us. It looks like kindness, Katha. And that terrifies you because it means everything we believed was a lie. The slap came fast, sharp. Margot's head snapped sideways. The entire barracks went silent. 23 women holding their breath. Kata's hand shook. You disgust me. She walked out into the night. Frida moved to Margot's bunk, pressed a cold cloth to her reeling cheek. She'll try to escape. I know they'll catch her. I know. 2 days later, Kata cut through the fence wire during evening recreation. Made it half a mile before the perimeter patrol found her walking down a Louisiana highway in her P uniform. They brought her back, fed her dinner, put her in isolation for 48 hours with 3 meals a day and a Bible. When she emerged, she was quieter, harder. The kindness had radicalized her more than any cruelty could have. Christmas came. The Americans decorated the missal with paper snowflakes and tinsel. They served turkey with stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. Margot ate until she felt sick. Not from the food, from the wrongness of it all. Last Christmas, she'd been in a field hospital outside DeBrook, eating stale crackers and watching boys die from infected wounds. This Christmas, she was eating turkey carved by a smiling American sergeant who asked if she wanted dark meat or white. After dinner, Donna found her. Walk with me. They circled the compound in the cold. Their breath made clouds. I'm scared to go home, Margot said suddenly. When do you ship out? January, maybe February. She kicked at a rock. Germany's rubble now. My mother's letters. She talks about eating potato peels. Burning furniture for heat. And I'm here eating turkey. You didn't choose this. Neither did she. Donna pulled out 2 cigarettes. Lit both. Handed one to Margot. My mom asked me to come home. Says I've done my duty. But I can't yet. Why not? Because I need to believe this mattered. That teaching you to dance and sharing my sweater. And she trailed off. I need to believe people can change. Margot took a drag. Do you believe it? Ask me in 10 years. They smoked in silence, watching their breath mix with cigarette smoke in the cold Louisiana night. Somewhere in the distance, someone was singing Silent Night in German. An American voice joined in, harmonizing. Margot closed her eyes. I'm going to tell them, she said quietly. When I get back, I'm going to tell them what you showed us here. They won't want to hear it. I know, but I have to try. Donna nodded, reached into her pocket, pulled out a piece of paper with an address written in careful script. Ohio, my family's farm. If you survive, write to me. Tell me if it was real. If we actually, she couldn't finish. Margot took the paper, memorized the address before folding it carefully into her pocket. "Thank you," she whispered, "for the Coca-Cola, for teaching me to dance, for reminding me I'm human." They stood there, an American volunteer and a German prisoner, both 24, both changed forever by meat and music, and the unbearable revelation that kindness could be the cruelest weapon of all. Because cruelty you could fight, but decency destroyed everything you thought you knew. Kita's voice cut through the barracks like a razor. "Stand up when I read this." 20 women froze. Margot watched Kata unfold the torn pieces of her letter, the ones she'd buried under coffee grounds and cigarette butts in the trash bin. Her stomach dropped. "Nye, I don't know how to tell you this." Kata's voice dripped poison. "They gave us roast chicken yesterday. Real chicken and ice cream. Strawberry. I ate until I felt sick." Frida's hand found Margot's wrist under the blanket squeezed. Kata kept reading. "The American women guards shared their cigarettes with us. Last week, one gave me her sweater because I was cold. Her own sweater, Nye." She looked up, eyes blazing. "Should I continue?" The barracks held its breath. What did we do? What did we think we were fighting for? Margot stood. Her legs shook, but she stood. "You've been seduced by hamburgers." Kata's laugh was ugly. "By jazz music and baseball games and a black hook who smiles at you. You're a traitor to everything we know." Margot's voice cracked. "I've been treated like a human being for the first time in 5 years. And it's breaking my brain, Kata, because they're supposed to be the monsters." Silence. "They gave Hilda eyeglasses, remember?" Margot gestured wildly. "An optometrist came, tested her eyes, gave her glasses for free." For free? When did the Reich ever? This is weakness. This is sanity. Margot's voice broke completely. "We were the ones starving people. We were the ones with the camps. And I know that now because I've seen what civilization actually looks like." Frida stood too. "Kata, when's the last time a German officer asked if you were comfortable?" "Frida, don't." When Frida's voice was gentle, devastating. "When's the last time anyone in the Wehrmacht treated you like you mattered?" Kata's hand trembled on the letter fragments. Margot took a step forward. "It looks like a black man teaching me to jitterbug. It looks like a teenage girl from Ohio sharing her Coca-Cola even though her brother died at Normandy. It looks like them being kind to us when they have every reason to hate us. And that kindness is destroying everything I thought I knew." The slap echoed like a gunshot. Margot's cheek burned. She tasted blood where her teeth cut her lip. Kata stood there, hands still raised, breathing hard. Then she turned and walked out. The door slammed. Nobody moved. Hilda finally broke the silence. "She'll report you. Let her." Margot touched her split lip. "What are they going to do? Give me less ice cream." Nervous laughter rippled through the barracks, but Kata didn't report anyone. 2 days later, the guards found the hole she'd cut in the fence. Margot watched from the barracks window as they brought Kata back, muddy and exhausted, still defiant. "No beatings, no shouting." They just walked her to the isolation building. Sergeant Winters carried her dinner tray himself that first night. Margot saw him through the window. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans. He sat it down, said something that made Kita turn away, then left. 48 hours, 3 meals a day, a Bible on the nightstand. When Kita emerged, something in her eyes had hardened to diamond. Week 8 arrived with cold January rain. Mandatory assembly. The announcement crackled through the camp at 400 hours. Meshal all personnel. Margot filed in with the others. The Americans had set up a projector, a screen. "What now?" Frida whispered. "More Hollywood." Donna stood against the wall, arms crossed. She wouldn't look at Margot. The lights went out. The first image appeared. Bodies stacked like firewood. Ribs visible through skin. Skulls. Mountains of shoes. Bergen-Belsen, the narrator's voice said, "Liberated." April 15th, 1945. A woman beside Margot started retching. The images kept coming. Ovens, barbed wire, walking skeletons with shaved heads, and prison stripes. Children, so many children. Tao liberated. April 29th. Margot couldn't breathe. The mess hall spun. She'd known not the details, not the scale, but she'd known something. Everyone had known something. The transports, the rumors, the way people disappeared. She'd told herself it was rumors, propaganda, exaggeration, book involved. Someone was screaming. Margot realized it was her. Half the barracks emptied. Women stumbling outside to vomit. Margot stayed frozen in her seat, unable to look away, unable to process the arithmetic of bodies. When the lights came back on, the Americans didn't speak, didn't lecture, didn't gloat. They just set out coffee and donuts and left. Margot sat alone, staring at nothing for 20 minutes before her legs worked again. She found Donna outside smoking in the rain. Did you know? Margot's voice was Horsero. When you volunteered here. Donna took a long drag. Rain plastered her hair to her face. Yeah, that's why I'm here. My brother died fighting you guys at Normandy. She laughed, bitter and broken. I was gonna hate every German I met. You should. I tried. Donna flicked ash into a puddle. But then you cried over barbecue ribs. And Hilda asked me if Coca-Cola was real. And Frida learned to hit a baseball and looked so happy. She turned. You're just people. A people from a up place. But people. Margot slid down the wall, sat in the mud. I don't know how to live with this. Donna sat beside her. Two women in the rain, both 24, both destroyed by different bombs. Yeah. Donna's voice was quiet. Me neither, but we're gonna have to figure it out together, I guess. They sat without speaking. An American whose brother died killing Germans. A German who treated boys like him in field hospitals. Watched them bleed out. Didn't let herself think about who was right. Somewhere inside, Glenn Miller played on the radio. Someone laughed. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. Katha watched from her window as Margot and Donna sat together in the rain. She'd seen the newsreels, too, seeing the evidence. She picked up her pen. Her diary opened to a blank page. Then she closed it. Some things couldn't be written. Some truths couldn't be faced. She tucked the Führer's photo deeper into her pillowcase and tried to sleep. Outside, the rain kept falling on a camp where kindness was the cruelest weapon of all. The buses idled in the January mud, exhaust clouds rising like ghosts. Margot pressed her palm against the frost-etched window, watching American guards load duffel bags onto the convoy. Real bags, canvas ones the Americans had given them, stuffed with donated clothes that actually fit. She'd worn the same threadbare uniform for 3 years in Africa. Now she owned 2 dresses, a wool coat, and shoes without holes. She didn't want any of it. Frida sat beside her, clutching a recipe card. Sergeant Winters had written out his barbecue sauce formula in careful block letters during their final meal prep session yesterday. She'd cried so hard she'd gotten snot on his apron. He'd just laughed and given her a spare whisk. For Texas, Frida, when you get there, we're going the wrong direction, Frida whispered. Now outside, Donna Hartley moved between guards, clipboard in hand, checking manifests. She hadn't slept. Margot could see it in the dark circles, the mechanical movements. They'd said goodbye last night in the mess hall, but it hadn't stuck. How do you say goodbye to someone who showed you food could be joy, and music could heal, and enemies could choose kindness? The door hissed open. Donna climbed aboard, not looking at anyone. Listen up, ladies. We roll in 15. You've got addresses for your families, Red Cross contact information, and discharge papers. When you get to Bremen, there'll be her voice cracked. She stopped, cleared her throat. There'll be people to help you. And if you need anything, if it gets bad, you write to the Red Cross office in Bowdoin. They'll find me. Margot watched Donna's hand shake on the clipboard. 24-years-old farm girl from Ohio volunteered to hate them and ended up here instead. Standing in a bus full of former enemies, trying not to cry. Donna. Donna's eyes found hers. Held. Come here. Donna shouldn't. Regulation said maintain professional distance during repatriation. But she walked down the aisle anyway, stopped at Margot's seat. Margot pulled out a folded paper, her real letter, the one she had written 3 times and torn up twice, finally finishing at 0400 this morning. For when you get home, don't read it now. Donna took it, fingers brushing Margot's. You promised you'd write from Germany. I will every month until you tell me to stop. I won't tell you to stop. They stared at each other. Two women separated by language, nation, and a war that had killed Donna's brother and destroyed Margot's country, connected by ribs and swing music, and the terrible gift of seeing each other as human. Donna squeezed Margot's shoulder once, then walked back down the aisle before she could break. The buses rolled at 800. 3 weeks at sea. The ship stank of diesel and vomit. They fed the nurses good food, canned vegetables, powdered eggs, actual beef twice, but half of them couldn't keep it down. The ocean was rough. Or maybe it was the destination. Margot spent most of the voyage on deck, watching America disappear into the gray Atlantic. Frida stood beside her the first day out, both of them silent. My mother's last letter said they're eating grass, Frida finally said, boiling it for soup. The children are dying of dysentery. I know. We're going back to that after this. She gestured at the ship, the food, the life vests that actually worked. How do we do that, Margot? How do we go back to a place where she couldn't finish? A British sailor passed, nodding politely. Just another moment of casual respect they'd gotten used to. In 6 days, they'd land in a country where respect had died with the regime. We tell them, Margot said. We tell them what we saw, that there's another way. They'll call us traitors. Kata already did. Frida laughed, bitter and sharp. Kata sat below deck, still refusing to speak to either of them, still carrying her contraband photo of Hitler in her bag, hidden under donated American socks. The night before landfall, Margot dreamed of barbecue smoke. Bremen no longer existed. Margot stood in the rubble that used to be her neighborhood, breathing air thick with brick dust and sewage. The bus had dropped them at a Red Cross processing center, a half-bombed school with broken windows and a line of gray-faced women waiting for soup. Her mother's building was gone. Just gone. A crater where 12 families used to live. A woman digging through debris looked up, recognized her. Margot Klee, Bear, her mother's neighbor. 90 pounds now, maybe face like a skull wrapped in skin. Your mother. She's alive. She's at the church shelter on Hendelstrasse. Or what's left of it. She asks about you every day. Margot ran. The shelter was a church basement housing 40 people. No heat, one latrine. The smell hit her before she reached the stairs. Unwashed bodies, infection, despair. She'd forgotten that smell during her time in Louisiana. Now it crashed over her like a wave. Her mother sat on a pile of coats in the corner, darning a sock with string. Margot Clest Sr. looked up. For a moment, she didn't recognize her own daughter. The camp had added 20 pounds to Margot's frame, color to her skin. She looked healthy, fed, wrong. Then her mother's face crumpled. You're alive. Oh God, you're alive. They held each other in the dark basement while around them. People stared at Margot's American Red Cross coat, her good boots, her clean hair. She was an alien thing, a creature from another world. Tell me everything, her mother whispered. Tell me about the Americans. Were they cruel? Did they? No, Moody. Margot pulled back, looked at her mother's ravaged face. They fed us barbecue, gave us beds with sheets, let us play baseball. Her mother blinked. What? So Margot told her all of it. The ribs and the Coca-Cola and the swing dancing and Sergeant Winters teaching Frida to make cornbread and movie nights and the guards who said please and thank you and treated them like humans instead of animals. Her mother listened, face unreadable. When Margot finished, the silence stretched around them. Other women in the shelter had stopped their tasks listening. Finally, her mother spoke. They did this to us. She gestured at the ruins above. The Americans, the British, they burned our cities, killed our children, and they gave you barbecue. Moody, we know. Her mother's voice turned hard. You don't understand. You were gone. You didn't live through the firebombing. You didn't watch the phosphorus burn people alive in the streets. You didn't dig your neighbors out of rubble with your bare hands. But we did worse, Moody. They showed us films. The camp's Dow Bergen-Belsen propaganda. The word landed like a stone. It's not propaganda. I saw it. Real footage, real bodies, stories to justify what they did to us. Her mother stood, still skeletal, but suddenly rigid with conviction. My daughter comes home fed and healthy, talking about American kindness while her own people starve. Do you know how that sounds? Around them, women muttered agreement. Margot felt something break inside her chest. Different than the break at the barbecue. This one cut deeper. I'm telling the truth. Your truth. The one they gave you with their hamburgers and their jazz music. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. They bought you, Margot. With food and comfort, they bought you. That's not go. Her mother turned away. Come back when you remember who you are. Margot climbed the stairs alone. She found Frida 3 days later at the repatriation office arguing with a clerk. I need papers for America. Immigration papers. Fräulein, there's a waiting list. I don't care about a list. I have a contact, a reference. She pulled out Sergeant Winter's address written on American military stationery. He said he'd sponsor me. The clerk stared at her like she was insane. Frida saw Margot, her face collapsing in relief. Tell him what it was like there. Margot looked at the clerk's hollow cheeks, his threadbare suit, the desperation in every line of his body. Tried to find words for ribs and safety and Duke Ellington records. It was better, she finally said. The food was better. The clerk laughed bitter and broken. Then you should have lost the war sooner. Outside, Frida grabbed Margot's arm. I'm leaving as soon as I can. I'll wash dishes, clean toilets, whatever, but I'm not staying here. She looked at the ruins, the grave people, the death that hung over everything like fog. Are you coming? Margot thought of her mother's face, the women in the shelter, the accusation of betrayal. I can't. Not yet. Why? Someone has to tell them about the films, about what we did. They won't listen. I know, but I have to try. Frida hugged her, fierce and desperate. Write to me when it gets too bad. Write to me and I'll send money for a ticket out. I will. Frida left 2 months later. Margot got a postcard from New York 6 weeks after that. The ribs here aren't as good, but they're close. Come soon.